The news hit like a shockwave. Jiribam, a town in Manipur already grappling with tension, became the target of a terrifying new attack. The culprits? The United National Liberation Front, Unlf, and the Arambai group. Their weapon of choice? Pressure cooker bombs. These crude yet effective devices ripped through the streets, leaving fear and destruction. The blasts sent a clear message: nowhere is safe. The attacks reminded everyone of the volatile situation in Manipur. Will this act of terror force those in power to address the root causes of violence? The pressure is mounting on authorities to bring the perpetrators to justice. Pressure cooker bombs. The name itself sounds almost absurd, conjuring images of a kitchen appliance gone rogue. But the reality is far more sinister. These improvised explosive devices, cobbled together using readily available materials, have become a common weapon in terror groups' arsenals. The science behind these bombs is straightforward, albeit deadly. A pressure cooker is transformed into a sealed container. Explosive material is packed inside, along with shrapnel nails, ball bearings, anything to maximize the damage. A detonator is added, and the device is ready to wreak havoc. The pressure cooker's strength allows the pressure from the explosion to build, creating a more powerful blast. The impact of these bombs is devastating. The blast itself can be lethal, causing severe injuries and fatalities. The shrapnel acts like a deadly hailstorm, ripping through flesh and bone. The psychological impact is equally profound, leaving behind a legacy of fear and trauma. In the aftermath of the Jiribam attack, a particularly insidious narrative began to circulate. The claim that 900 Kuki militants had crossed the border into India, presumably to further destabilize the region. This narrative, however, has been widely debunked as misinformation, a dangerous attempt to stoke fear and incite further violence. There is no credible evidence to support the claim of a mass militant crossing. No independent sources have corroborated the story, and security officials have dismissed it as baseless. This hasn't stopped the rumor mill from churning, though. The story, shared widely on social media, has taken on a life of its own, fueling suspicion and prejudice against the Kuki community. The intent behind this misinformation is clear: to demonize the Kuki community and portray them as a threat to national security. By painting a target on their backs, the perpetrators of this falsehood hope to create a climate of fear and justify further violence against the Kuki people. This is a classic tactic of division and hate, designed to pit communities against each other and undermine any hope of peace. A look at central government finances and the conflict. As the dust settles in Jiribam, questions are being raised about the role of the central government in the ongoing conflict. Specifically, allegations have surfaced suggesting that government funds intended for development and aid are being diverted to support groups involved in the violence. These are serious accusations with potentially explosive implications. Critics allege that a lack of transparency in government spending has created an environment ripe for corruption and misuse of funds. They point to a pattern of inadequate oversight and accountability, allowing funds to be siphoned off with impunity. While concrete evidence remains elusive, the allegations alone are deeply concerning. If true, they paint a disturbing picture of a government complicit in the very violence it claims to be combating. This raises serious questions about the government's commitment to peace and reconciliation in Manipur. The people deserve answers. They deserve to know how their money is being spent and whether it is being used to fuel the conflict they are desperate to escape. While the pressure cooker bomb attacks in Jiribam sent shockwaves through the region, they were not isolated incidents. For months, Kuki villages have been subjected to a relentless campaign of violence and intimidation, their homes and livelihoods under constant threat. Armed groups, allegedly operating with impunity, have launched a series of coordinated attacks on Kuki communities. Homes have been burned to the ground, businesses looted and destroyed, and innocent civilians terrorized. The attackers, often heavily armed, have shown a blatant disregard for human life and property. The attacks have created a humanitarian crisis, displacing families shattering communities and leaving a trail of trauma in their wake. The Kuki people, caught in the crosshairs of a conflict they did not choose, are desperate for protection and justice. Their pleas for help have largely gone unanswered, leaving them feeling abandoned and betrayed by the very authorities tasked with protecting them. The situation in Manipur is dire. The recent attacks in Jiribam, coupled with the ongoing violence against Kuki villages, paint a grim picture of a region spiraling towards chaos. The time for complacency is over. The need for action is now. The first and most pressing priority is to ensure the safety and security of all citizens. This requires a robust and visible security presence in vulnerable communities, capable of deterring further attacks and responding swiftly and decisively should they occur. But security measures alone are not enough. We need vigilance. We need communities to come together to report suspicious activity and to resist the forces seeking to divide them. This is not a time for silence. It is a time to speak out against violence, to demand accountability from those in power, and to work tirelessly for a future where peace prevails. The road to peace in Manipur will be long and arduous, but it must begin with a fundamental shift in approach. The cycle of violence and retribution must end. It's time to address the root causes of the conflict, not just the symptoms. This requires a multi-pronged approach. First and foremost, there must be justice for the victims. Those responsible for the violence, regardless of their affiliation, must be held accountable for their actions. This will require a credible and impartial investigation, followed by swift and decisive legal action. Second, we need a genuine commitment to dialogue and reconciliation. All stakeholders, including community leaders, government officials and representatives from all sides of the conflict, must come together to address grievances, build trust and find common ground. This will not be easy, but it is essential if we are to break the cycle of violence and create a future where all communities in Manipur can coexist peacefully. The people of Manipur deserve better. They deserve to live in a society free from fear, violence and oppression. They deserve a future where their children can grow up in peace and security. Achieving this vision will require more than just words. It will require action. We must demand better from our leaders. We must hold them accountable for their actions and inaction. Write to your representatives. Organize peaceful protests. Make your voices heard. Let them know that you will not tolerate violence and division any longer. This is not just a fight for Manipur, it is a fight for the soul of humanity. It is a fight against hatred, intolerance and the forces that seek to divide us. Let us stand together, united in our commitment to peace, justice and a brighter future for all.